and it says that I'm live, so I must be live. It's good to see you all. I've been playing with my computer too much, and as a result I don't have my usual live settings plugged in at the moment, so it's just a blank picture of me, although hopefully the resolution should be better than usual. I'm just going to check that I do start showing up live. I have also got some sound coming out of something, so I'm just going to shut down my windows to maximize my bandwidth. So let me just do that now. And how y'all doing? How y'all doing? It's good. So yeah, it's been a good week. Good to see you all. I've just been to a barbecue today where I had some sun, and a Japanese style barbecue, by the way, which is kind of cool. And there is the live, so I know it's working. But yes, I had some Japanese barbecues. They enjoy barbecues here, but they're very different to what I'm used to in Australia and New Zealand. You have a lot of meat and beer, and you have a big barbecue that people spend hundreds of dollars on. Here they spend like $20 on their barbecues. And, it's a lot of seafood and vegetables, actually, as well as thinly sliced meat, which is kind of cool. Of people commenting to me on Facebook, which actually I'm watching the comments in the video here. It's easier to focus on one place. But, Charlie Brown AU is asking me if I heard that they sold or that they're selling the Sony headquarters building, which I did not know, but I guess that's kind of consistent with everything else that they've been doing. So there's a lot of topics. I actually just watched the Avril Laing video for the first time. Thank you, Emily Louise Maitland. I kind of was seeing the controversy around it. Frankly, I wasn't that interested in watching it, but I watched it, and it was it was kind of crap, but not racist crap if you ask me. I was a bit disappointed. I don't know. I was expecting it to be worse somehow. I don't know how that works, actually, how they have these Japan racism controversies, honestly. I'm pretty sure something like that wouldn't offend anyone in Japan. It might offend some Asian Americans, perhaps, or Canadians, of course, he's Canadian. Or perhaps they offend people Japanese who are very sensitive about their image, who have lived outside of Japan for too long. I think that was the story with Lost in Translation. And there were some parodies there of Lost in Translation as well. There were some scenes in that video, which was, Lost in Translation is a fantastic movie. And I remember there were some outspoken people who were like writing that that's a racist movie in America. And I was like, oh my God, catch a break, honestly. But yeah, so I know I wish it wasn't so bad. I guess we'll get to that. I'll go through the comments in order because all you good people are here and making comments. So first up, good to see you, Emily Louise Maitland. Razel, good to see you. Konbanwa, Austin Richardson. I'm going to bring this under the video here so that I'm talking to you and not looking away from you as I read these comments. Contensai, good evening to you. Good to see you again, sir. How is my sound? How are my levels? Give me some feedback, by the way. How's my video? Is it all working okay? I'm still working on getting the video capture card going. On Facebook, I've been sharing some of my angst over there. Now that's funny, I can hear myself. I know why, it's feeding back. I don't want to feed back, that's why. So sorry, this is the thing about setting up on a new PC, you have to change some of your settings. But yes, I've been working on trying to get an HD capture from my DSLR, and I'm getting there, I'm making progress, but I'm not there yet, so I'll get there. That's been some fun. Sean Goss, good to see you. Narcissist stalking mode activate as always. Bradley Ford, good to see you. Back from Yokohama. You're in Yokohama today. Well, let's hope you had fun. Yokohama's a cool place. I was on my way. I was in Sakurashimachi today, which was it's a really, really nice neighborhood. I mean, I thought I lived in a pretty nice neighborhood, but that is a nice neighborhood. Capcom Corny, 10:45 p.m., 6:45 a.m. for you, which means you're in America, I think, right? Probably West Coast? I don't know. Maybe more than that. Wow, that's 8 hours. 8 hours. So that's, probably West Coast. Well, thank you for joining. Very, very glad you woke up on a Sunday morning for this. I'm good to see. Or maybe you stayed up for it. Who knows? Ryan Platts, 14:45, 2:45 in sunny Yorkshire. Yeah, Yorkshire. Gotta go there sometime, actually. I think I'm gonna pull up the family tree because there are a number of Yorkshire viewers, and I'm basically my heritage on both sides, on both my father's and my mother's side, even though they're both from Australia and New Zealand, goes back to like Bronte country and kind of West and North Yorkshire. And I always want to go and check that place out anyway. And and indeed Lancashire, Narcissus. Afternoon, Alistair Painter, good to see you. And way too sunny in Arizona. Oh, that's where you are, Arizona. See, that was pretty good, West Coast America. And Vantaa, which I now learned is where Helsinki Airport is. I want to go buy a Nokia or visit the Helsinki Science Center, which is in lovely Vantaa. I looked at the tourist information site. It told me so. It must be true. Darth JF. Good to see you. That's funny as well. Finnish is meant to be one of the same language groups as Japanese, right? Like Hungarian, Finnish, Mongolian, Korean, and Japanese are a single language group. Not that that makes any sense, but it's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have like similar words or anything. I always thought that was kind of cool. So Emily's Maitland rocking out with everybody there. Oxford, Alistair Painter, Oxford. I'm going to try to speak more intelligently. That's because I know that someone from Oxford is watching. Sydney, good to see you, especially up so late. London, Razo Gul. And good evening to you, Emily Louise Maitland. So we're just going through the discussion now about where it is. And the question. So on the first question of the night, I'm going to take it because it's in order. I've got my backup topics. I got my little iPad rocking here. But this is my fallback. You guys are the ones who set the agenda. So the first topic. What do I think of Avril Lang's Hello Kitty music video song? Well, I guess the first thing is I haven't really listened to an Avril Lang song ever, except for Skater Boy, which I thought was a good song. I thought that was kind of her sound. I thought she was kind of a ballad rocker girl thing. So to hear her doing, the Skrillex, and you know what, I should have thought about this before I got into it. But the Skrillex style of music, which was kind of a thing about 2 years ago and kind of came out and kind of disappeared again very fast. But, all digital and stuff. So what did I think of it? I thought I could tell she's kind of trying to channel Gwen Stefani. Again, 2 or 3 years too late. And on that, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know anybody in the world at the moment who, for me, could go up against Gwen Stefani and succeed better than Gwen Stefani can, because she's Gwen Stefani. She's like awesome. And she did a big thing on the Harajuku Girl thing. This kind of Harajuku Girl image thing's kind of been played out, this kind of ideal of what it is. I mean, honestly, if you said Harajuku Girl to me 5 or 6 years ago, I would have thought of like a Lolita goth. And I've heard from the Lolita goths that, the Lolitas and the goths, they would never be seen together, and get your terminology right. And I know I'm explaining this all wrong, but when you talk about the American pop culture portrayal of the Harajuku Girl thing and the, and the weeaboo thing of dropping kawaii in Japanese words and stuff, and how that's kind of got its own kind of, it's fashionable in its own hipster kind of way to kind of show knowledge of Japanese culture. And the fact that the video, took scenes from Lost in Translation. The background dancers and the whole thing about making up that image of Harajuku and so on. And I don't think she was making fun of it. I mean, the thing is, that's elements of that legitimately really are a big culture thing in Japan, even though they look kind of dumb to most people, especially probably people outside of Japan. But this is the thing. This is one thing about Japan I thought was always kind of cool. I mean, when I came to Japan and I was like learning whatever was the top pop chart song anytime for karaoke, I was learning every week, and then all of a sudden one week it was a piano solo. What was it? Spiritual Flow or something by Ryuichi Sakamoto. No, it was something flow. I forget it. But beautiful piano piece that was on a coffee commercial that got so popular it was number one. And then I went back to pop music, and I went back to learning the pop music, and then all of a sudden, Dango-san Kyodai, an animated song about a sweet shish kebab thing, a children's song with piano and and literally like a children's show host, probably from the educational TV channel, and then back to pop music, and then we had like the head of one of the guys in SMAP. I remember Shingo, I think he got to number one with the Oha Mama Rock, where he dressed up as a housewife and sang this super cheesy bento making song. I don't know. I mean, one thing that I really liked about Japanese culture when I came here was kind of the lack of posing per se. This whole idea that people, Dango-san Kyodai, my friends who are like, construction workers in their 20s are like going to karaoke and singing it. And it's like there's no idea that, oh, I'm not supposed to look like I like that because that would be uncool kind of way of, this kind of whole idea. It makes you realize, it makes you become very self-aware that I think in New Zealand and America, a lot of people, are so self-conscious about how others will react to things that they like, that they allow, consciously to some extent and subconsciously to a large extent, that to dictate what, they like, what they think they're supposed to like, or if they associate themselves with some sort of clique or with some sort of fashion, and, they kind of have these subliminal rules for what they're supposed to like and not like. And what I really like about Japan is all of those rules are kind of off. In a place like Tokyo, nobody knows anybody, there's too many people, and you can like anything that you like, and it's okay to be a classical musician and to like Dango-san Kyodai, or to be a heavy metaler and to buy, Sakamoto's piano solo, and they all make it to #1 on the chart. So, you look at this, the whole kind of cheesy culture thing is kind of one of the things that was really kind of cool about the music scene and the culture scene in Japan. It's not restrained by this, by this kind of self-imposed need to be cool, so I don't know, I'm looking at that and I'm seeing, well, so what's racist about it? I mean, I guess I'm talking too much about it now and we're going to see comments down below, but I don't see what's racist about it, honestly. It was kind of cringy, the music's kind of crap, it's kind of doing a second-rate Gwen Stefani impersonation. Gwen Stefani. Sorry, I just need a moment with that. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't get what the big deal is anyway. I mean, compared to Justin Bieber going to Yasukuni, which was... And he pretended like he didn't know, like he randomly rocked up to it, which is possibly true, but who cares? I mean, the thing again, I've been to Yasukuni Jinja, so what? It's a shrine. It's a shrine. It's nice. They have trees. So anyway, enough with that. Back to the comments. But I watched it, and apart from being kind of crap, of kind of and getting on an outdated trend, on an outdated musical form. I mean, the whole big Harajuku girl culture boom that was kind of happening 2 or 3 years ago seems kind of dead last that I heard. But there again, she is from Canada. Perhaps it just takes more time for those things to get up there. And maybe she thought no one in Canada had heard of Gwen Stefani. If that's the case, well, Canadians, you guys are missing out. So anyway, enough about that and Gwen Stefani, who's I'd much rather, I feel happy thinking about her and not Avril Lavigne. Anyway, enough about that. Onwards and upwards. And thank you, XL Release. I am fine. Thank you for asking, and I'll do my best to blow your mind, however I can. That's all good. Hey, Ahmed, my good man, good to see you. Austin Richardson, questions. What about the resignation of a Korean PM today? Wondering what is a prime minister supposed to do in response to a ship sinking? He recognizes it's a different position from PM in other countries, but still. Well, for a start, I mean, of course, you don't hear much about the PM in Korea, but obviously Korea is, they've got kind of this hybrid of the Japanese system, which has a prime minister, and the American system, which has a president on top of that. I don't really know the difference either. I guess Russia has a similar system. That's Putin was the prime minister for a long time, while, number 2 pretended to be president for a while, and then he gave the job back. So it's kind of similar to that. I don't know. I mean, as far as I can see, it appears to be just a professional whipping boy for the government. I mean, the fact that the president kind of reacted to the upset parents, asking where's the accountability by saying that those crew practically killed them, which one, is irresponsible from the perspective of preempting the investigation, and two, no, they're saying that you're responsible, and you're calling the crew murderers like you've got nothing to do with it. I don't know. Park is really, really disappointing to me on so many levels. I think she's just stupid. The way that she's been dealing with Japan and so on, she's painted herself into a very stupid corner. But on top of that, again, looking at this thing, it's kind of a disaster, especially in Korea. where their funerals over there in Japan, they're very stoic funerals, very quiet. In Korea, there's a cultural thing of showing emotion, as much as possible. And so you got a lot of very, very upset, emotional people over there, and they're going to be blaming the government no matter what, frankly. And the extent to which they actually deserve to be responsible will come out. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible disaster. But yeah, I don't know. It's what I think about it. Yeah, I think the government there is trying to show that they're taking responsibility for it somehow. But why taking responsibility for what is not yet clear. I mean, I guess that's right. It was the whole mess with the rescue being messed up, and frankly, and this was another problem. They were rushing in. One, they were getting the numbers wrong about how many people they rescued, and then they were lying about how many rescuers they were providing. Plus, apparently, Japanese government offered them support for the rescue and for finding victims, and Korean government turned it down and said, we're fine. Not unlike the jail crash where the US Air Force actually got to the crash site before Japanese rescue workers did, and Japan, for whatever reason, this is back in the 90s or 80s, Japan turned down help. And there was some, speculation that there were actually maybe some survivors at that time that the Americans could have saved. Why they turned down, if it was nationalism, that was the reason that they turned down Japanese help, national pride, it's possible, maybe embarrassment at the accident. Well, this is all, again, the reason why nationalism is just so stupid, if you ask me. I don't know. I mean, he resigned. I guess we'll probably find out later what that was for. I'm carrying on. So actually, Narcissus apparently. So Victor read out all the lyrics to the song, and he cringed less when he read it than when she actually sang it. So I'm not going to do that. I saw it. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it. Ahmed, how's life in Tokyo and tips on living in Tokyo specifically? That's a good topic. That's a very open topic. That's a very good one. Tokyo is awesome. I guess going back to 1998, 1999, those first couple of years here, and coming from a place like New Zealand, I had to kind of learn to deal with the crowds and learn the geography, and the geography here is intense. I mean, it's funny, Tokyo is kind of on a macro level, it's a very small and very neatly organized kind of a circular city, and it's easy to kind of learn places, but there are so many of them, and every location is kind of deep, and it changes so fast. So I guess the two things I get a sense of the overall geography, learn the Yamanote-sen like immediately, but also really focus and spend a couple of months just learning the geography, like in the couple of neighborhoods around where you live, because that'll take up all your time. And I don't know. I mean, it's always changing, but there is a fantastic kind of chart which shows every suburb in Tokyo, all in Japanese. I haven't ever been able to find an English version, and it kind of has these continuums around the edge, which rate, like, for example, the wealthy to the ghetto to the young girls to the old men to the computer tribe to the fashion tribe, and kind of it has all these continuums where it locates every suburb in Tokyo according to the fashion trend that suburb represents, or the demographic, or the image. And I mean, but even then, that's something, it's only really meaningful when you know what all those suburbs are, and then you look at it and you think it's very clever, but as a way to navigate, I don't know, it's just impossible. In a way, I'd almost say the best way to approach Tokyo is two ways. One, by wherever you happen to live or work, those places which will dominate most of your time. And if you look for anything else, rather than take a broad, flat, geographic approach to it, always go on an interest base. What hobbies are you interested in, and where are the places to go for your hobbies or your shopping, or what kind of food do you like, and where can you find this restaurant, and focus on those targets. One thing I really like about Tokyo is, again, just because it's 25 million people in the greater area, 30 million I've seen quoted in some places, it means that you can find anything. And I even like that idea, just sometimes the challenge of finding something obscure and going and finding it and learning a bit about the neighborhood that it's in. That's kind of cool. So, and that's how, like, for example, surfing, there's a neighborhood that has nothing but surf shops. If you want to buy a scooter, there's a neighborhood that has nothing but scooters. There are bicycle specialist neighborhoods. There are specialist rugby shops. The Mongolian restaurant I went to go and find, it took me to a neighborhood I never go to that I kind of learned a bit about as a result. That's where the fun is. I mean, there's so many different bases that you can go out and explore in ways that in almost any other city, even New York or London, you can't do. I've gone to London and I've tried going around, like, for example, DJ music shopping, and it sucks there. I mean, the fact that you can go to the back streets of Shibuya, to a specific part of Shibuya, and just have the best music shopping in the world. I mean, that's what's kind of cool. I mean, it depends on what you think your thing is, but, you know, you can come here and figure that out. You don't even have to know. So yes, big game for Liverpool, but I think there's a lot of stress going on there at the moment. So hopefully it goes well. Yes, but that's my quick take on getting used to living in Tokyo. So what else we got? Ra's Al Ghul, are you moving to Tokyo? He's asking. Oh yes, Peter Subrashi, good to see you, man. Dustin Howe, Ost, is it Korean now? Yeah, exactly. Even Koreans don't know that there's a PM. Well, that's kind of it. It's kind of, I mean, maybe it's like the official piñata role that they have that just takes the blame for everything. Michael Atlas, question: how could Japanese companies pay their workers so much less than they would earn if they did the same job in another country? Well, that's easy. For example, engineers make about half as much as they do in the US. Well, two answers to that. One, actually, I'm thinking now, there's a number of answers to that. First up, they can pay them less because if they don't learn language, they can't travel, and most Japanese people, I mean, you know, the desire to go overseas and the ability in language seems to be in decline in Japan. So that's the first thing. You know, Japan is isolated in most ways, including the job market from the rest of the world. Value is attached to jobs differently. Engineers, there's a lot of engineers. It's probably a very undervalued, subscribed type of work. Also in America, you think about, you know, the value in the startups and the Silicon Valley wave, you know, the Silicon Valley culture, the startup culture, the money that's been going around, and the money that you need to live in those kind of areas. So again, you have to pay engineers money to have them live in those very, very expensive parts of America to work for you and so on. So all the pay has to match all of that reality. Whereas in Japan, you know, most of these engineers, you know, they live in little cramped apartments in the outer suburbs and they commute a lot and they're very, very abused people. Plus, of course, you know, they can work overtime forever, which they, you know, hardly ever claim or get paid properly. So there's all of that. There's a different valuation, the culture thing, the different economic scale. But yeah, so how do they get away with it? You know, it's just a totally the other big point I wanted to point out was the whole philosophy about salaries in Japan is that Japan is, you have to understand, psychologically, Japan has never been a capitalist country. It's very much just instinctively a very socialist country in my experience. And by that I mean, you know, people think about the kind of society and group-oriented rights first. And so this idea, particularly for publicly listed companies where people can find out each other's salaries, CEO pay in Japan, I mean, I know, like, honestly, near to CEO level executives, I've worked in areas where I've been able to see for a lot of different companies what people earn. You know, they earn less than, like, first year lawyers, for example, in New York firms. I knew they get paid crazy over there, of course, and I'm thinking a lot of the way that Silicon Valley firms pay for top engineers, they get paid more than the CEOs of like the big name companies, like Honda or Toshiba or, you know, I don't know, Hitachi or Toyota or all those sorts of companies. You know, the CEOs, they get paid peanuts, and that goes on a scale of seniority based purely on age, not on ability or experience. And people are paid what they are, what society kind of accepts they're entitled to for their age and their level of seniority. Merit-based pay is very, very rare, you know, or bonuses based on results. Anything other than like overall company economic performance and so on. So again, as a society, there's a kind of a culture against paying people more. And I've seen the tension as well in international companies. The issue of differential of pay between expats and Japanese is a major point of tension in international companies in Japan, one which I've seen that issue alone bring down companies, multiple companies. I knew an expat, or I knew a young girl who was a consultant in a consulting company that I was at. She was from the international arm, and she was getting paid much more than me. I voluntarily went into the Japanese side, and she said that she was taken aside by the Japanese head of HR and told, "You do not deserve to be getting this amount of money." So as like a moral kind of social justice kind of a thing, she was told that by the head of HR. So culturally, there's all sorts of reasons, but Japan really hasn't been a place to come and earn money pretty much since 1991. You can get great experience and have great times, and it's a great place to live, but compared to the US, and besides which, they need all that money in the US to pay off their student loans and to pay for their insurance, and there's plenty of costs in America that you don't have in Japan. Japan's got a great social security net and so on, so you don't have to worry about a lot of that other stuff, insurance and stuff like that, medical care. So Americans there is an increased cost of living, I think, for Americans. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why, and there are a lot of, not a lot, but there are Japanese who realize that they'd be better off going to America, and they do, but not many. Michael Atlas, very good question, that, actually. Peter Subarashi, Obama decided not to bow to the emperor on this trip. He learned from the last time that the awkward bow handshake that he did. So the Obama bow thing. Well, I don't know. It was that whole thing was just kind of dumb. I mean, yeah. So the first time he bowed 90 degrees, which, I don't know. Usually he probably overthought it. I think that's it. And frankly, a lot of critics overthought it as well, and were looking for anything to criticize him about, and they did. It did feel better this time. It felt a lot more natural and probably appropriate. I was impressed with how he seemed to be greeting Empress Michiko like he was asking her about the recent baseball game. Like, it was but honestly, I think that's probably the right level, and who cares, honestly. I mean, it was very impressive how they really, really rolled out the carpet for Obama this time, and they were really obviously, I mean, for Japan, I mean, America, the relationship with America is absolutely fundamental to a lot of things Japan's trying to do at the moment. So it was smart on Abe's part to put on the real VIP treatment for him, and we'll see if it pays off any results. The one big result was, of course, that the TPP negotiations were not tied up in time, even though obviously the visit of Obama was the main target for that, the trade negotiations. That's a real shame, because I'm straight up. I really want. I mean, there's the intellectual property thing in Annex in particular of TPP is a big problem, but other than that, Japan's economy is overprotected for the sake of protecting a small and aging and frankly dying minority of farmers at the expense of, people, the majority of the population who, like me, live in big cities like Tokyo. And we pay, all of these, huge prices on food and so on, which keeps these farmers, these people who should be retired by now. I mean, I think the average age of farmers in Japan is now over the retirement age, is now over 65, and they are literally dying out. And we're paying all this money needlessly on food to keep them in big houses, and to force us to buy their food instead of good competing product from other countries. And and we just talked about the topic of engineers. Japanese are not overpaid, but yet we're being forced. It's a kind of forced taxation or social welfare, how much we pay for the food for farmers, and they don't need the social welfare. So I don't know. I want to see the TPP thing work. And, America is one of the most hypocritical countries, I think, when it comes to free trade. They are one of the most vocal promoters of free trade, and I respect that, and I like that. But at the same time, of course, America is not going to cut a deal that's not good for America and not good for their own lobbyists. And someone like Obama, he's a Democrat from Detroit and Chicago, and he's going to make sure he gets a good deal on cars. I don't understand, frankly, what they mean by non-tariff barriers. It just sounds to me like a weak excuse that even though there are no barriers to them selling cars here, they just can't because their cars are crap and they don't sell them. But apparently, they want something done, and I don't know what they want done, but sure, go to town. I mean, force the government to buy American cars or something. I don't know what they're asking for. But I really hope that they tie it up. What was very interesting about that was I think I mentioned this the other day, the actual negotiation minister, who apparently had a 48-hour straight sleepless negotiating session with the American negotiator, and he looked kind of crushed at the end of it because it was ultimately a failure. And yes, it was, in the end of the day, because it failed, and the guy was kind of so dark-eyed and, kind of exhausted. And he kind of said, they asked him, how do you feel, like, not being able to get a result? And he said, if I was given this job again, I'd say I don't want to do it. Which, for a Minister of Trade to say on NHK, on public TV, was kind of surprising. The other big thing, of course, about the visit was Obama, for the first time, actually naming the Senkaku Islands and saying that they were expressly subject to the U.S. Security Treaty, which was interesting, because Clinton wouldn't have said that. At the end of the day, it's kind of a no-brainer if you think about it. Those islands, I mean, technically, all of Japan's post-war territory wasn't decided by Japan. It was decided by America, which was occupying Japan for 10 years. And America decided pretty much unilaterally what to give back and what not to. And they decided which claims Japan had that were valid, which included, for Japan, the 4 southern Kuril Islands, the Northeast Territories, which was partly because America was in a Cold War with Russia, so it was okay to let them have a dispute. America did look the other way at Korea grabbing the Takeshima rocks, the Lion Court rocks, in 1952, which America was using as a bombing range at that time, which they recognized as Japanese territory. They didn't do anything, and Japan wasn't in a position to do anything about Korea grabbing those rocks, which they thought was grabbing them back. But with the Senkaku Islands, they didn't revert until, I think, 1972, or was it 1975, that Okinawa reverted to the rest of Japan from U.S. occupation. And I've read the stories that, it was a cartographic mistake, and America should have given it back to, linked it to Taiwan and given it back to China, but they made a mistake and they gave it to Japan, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, they made a very conscious call about what to do with those islands, and they gave them back to Japan in 1975. And so the idea that America could encourage Chinese invasion of those islands now, I mean, the fact that they're an issue is because America gave them to Japan, so and those islands specifically. So, no, it's absolutely kind of a no-brainer on that level that the US president should at least back up the position that, the US government previously made, that those islands were rightfully returned to Japan. And I mean, in the end of the day as well, China's just being stupid. And, they're looking at, and this is one thing I think people don't understand about China. Everyone seems to presume that China, and indeed, non-democratic dictatorships will somehow act rationally like they would. No, China, dictatorships, the great thing about being a dictatorship is you're kind of free. One, you're free from acting rationally, and two, the things that influence you are totally different, and for them, backing up the sincerity of the propaganda that they're putting out to their internal domestic market, this idea that they kind of have to back up their education that these islands were stolen, and the kind of propaganda that China's rising and Japan's declining, with muscling people around to demonstrate it for domestic entertainment purposes, to back up the story that they're which frankly isn't true, but that they've fed their own people for so long. And, everyone's thinking, well, that'll hurt their economy if they actually do that. But people are underestimating the value of these things. The economy is something that they can control or manage or at any time, so far as they're concerned. But the propaganda thing is just as important to them, even though it's not really important to democracy. So that's an interesting thing anyway. It was good timing for Obama to come, and I'm glad that he said the thing about the territory thing, just to remind China just to keep a lid on the shenanigans. But, the Bao thing, I don't know, it's nothing. Ahmed, I agree with you, Ahmed. No racism in the video, just silliness. And I my only real problem was it's a bit dasai, a little bit out of date, but that's about it. Austin Richardson, the song topic is great. What was best was having white hyperactivist types tell Japanese that they are wrong for not being offended by it. Oh, really? There was that? And this is kind of why I just skipped that whole debate. I see stories like this now, the kind of the outrage things, and I skip them because most of the people just seem to be publicly airing their own personal psychological issues most of the time, rather than speaking on anything that's objectively there. Sometimes it's there, but it wasn't there on this one. Narcissus, the original version of the Avril Lang song had apparently Chinese subtitles instead of Japanese. Really? I don't believe you. Or maybe it was in kanji. No, that doesn't make sense. No, come on. But why not? Why not? I don't know. Nothing wrong with that. Evening, Michael Peckett. I saw you talking about the step stem cell thing, and I gave my comments back on it. Well, okay, there still is a debate about where... So I'm actually looking at your comments right now, right beside me. As I understood, her explanation for it was that she just grabbed the wrong photos. She had a bunch of photos. She actually has the correct photos, and she can show the correct photos, but she grabbed the wrong photos and she put them on as a result. The end result was that, yes, she used the wrong photos, but she insists it was kind of an error rather than plagiarism. And I don't know, but it just sounds like in the end, like making weak excuses. As I said in my comment, the problems that it's highlighting is really just the lack of peer review and lack of standards in general in Japanese scientific research, which is kind of disappointing, but it's something I've heard of before as well, and it's partly because of the language and the isolation that Japan gets from the language, that it's harder to peer review articles that are written in Japanese, and it's harder for researchers to get their work recognized outside of Japan if they haven't spent the time on top of their research learning the appropriate level of English. So just the fact that they kind of slack and they kind of make stupid mistakes, which is still what I understand. But in terms of the details, I don't know. I kind of glaze over with this. And the fact that the supervisors have now resigned, and resigned because in isolation from the investigation of Obokata, they've actually found similar stuff to what they found in the stem cell research stuff, like more just kind of sloppiness. So I don't know. I can't get into it anyway. That's just me on that one. Dustin Howell, dirty white people and their cultural appropriation. Yeah, that's right. By the way, apparently Americans were concerned with what Smarties really were. What is you mean, like the chocolate candy thing? So is that controversial? I don't get that, but okay. Emily Louise Maitland, yes, we're getting into the warm months, and so you start getting Japan's biggest, just killed a massive spider. Do you get big spiders in Japan? I mean, in Australia, we get crazy bugs. We get huntsmen in our house in Australia, like literally size of your hand, like skinny body, but they do bite and they are fast. And I'm from New Zealand. I'm used to little bugs, but whenever I go to Australia, I have to be. I'm the designated house big bug killer, and I'm not proud of how I look when I'm chasing little defenseless insects. Just killed a massive spider. Also saw the biggest mukade ever. Don't go near those mukade. If you see a millipede in Japan, apparently they're big ones. Those things are like seriously poisonous. And while they won't kill you, they are apparently the most painful venom of any animal in the animal kingdom, or something like that. Something crazy. You don't want to mess with them, and they are everywhere where there is nature in Japan, which is another great reason to live in Nijusanku in the 23 wards of central Tokyo like I do, because you don't have to worry about mukade, at least not so much. Darth JF, going back to the Avril Lang thing, there's some irony that white Japanophiles need to defend Japanese from racism and tell them when to get offended. Yeah, I find that incredibly awkward. If that's really what's been happening, that's pretty rough. Catch into bug fights, I guess some people do. In fact, actually in Japan, sumo wrestling of the big rhinoceros beetles, which are not poisonous or anything, but they're just big and they got these big horns, they naturally kind of push each other. And so having contests with those is actually a big industry, and having a good fighting, good size rhinoceros beetle is apparently worth like tens of thousands of dollars kind of money, if that's what floats your boat, I guess. Gotta catch them all. That's right. Question: Japanese. 道端であまり日本語でsorry, this is from 関天祭。日本語で外国人に話しかけられたことはありません。最近疑問に思っていたので恥ずかしいからなのかな。道端であんまり日本語で外国人に話しかけられたことはありません。正直言って、関天さん、I don't really quite get your question. So what you're saying is, and maybe so lately Japanese people don't really strike up conversations with foreigners in the street. I don't know. I mean, in Tokyo, that never happens in Tokyo. So the question is, why? Oh, so you're thinking about this lately. Okay, so I'm just thinking. So the question is, why don't Japanese strike up conversations with foreigners in the street more often? Well, when I came to Japan, when I was in Fukuoka, when I was in Kyushu in the early 1990s, it happened all the time. And it still happens a lot in the countryside in Japan. especially in places, the more unusual foreigners are, the more people come up. The conversations that they have are almost always the same, which drives some people nuts when they go and live in the countryside. But it's always kind of friendly and well-intentioned, and they're intended as icebreakers. In Tokyo, it never happens at all, because foreigners are kind of normal, and frankly, no one talks to anyone in Tokyo. So I don't know. It is true, the ones who are more likely to come up and talk to foreigners tend to be religious people, kind of different people, people who, a lot of people who see foreigners, they see someone, oh, they're not going to judge me, they're a foreigner, I can, be open with them. And so it's true, you get your geeks and freaks, and it's true of Japanese who go abroad as well. A lot of Japanese who gravitate to go abroad are people who don't like Japanese society, and people cannot like Japanese society for very good reasons, for the reasons that they actually gel with foreigners, all the senpai kohai bullshit, or that they're kind of weirdos and they don't really fit in well anywhere. And that's true of a lot of foreigners who come to Japan, as well as Japanese who go abroad. You meet all different kinds. With general people, I guess people are a bit shy, but in my experience, most Japanese people, they like having an opportunity to meet a foreign person, but they won't go and stop them in the street. But that's, I think, true of the whole culture in general. It's not just with foreigners. That's my kind of thing. So yeah, no sane person would touch a spider, says Ryan Platts. Yeah, I guess so. Saruki-san, their lives are so boring that they need a cause to stand up for. These are the Avril Lang complainers. Did it really get that bad? I kind of missed it. I've had a really busy week with work as well, so I've been missing all the drama, I guess. Peter Subarashi, your Inaka life sounds like a nightmare at the moment, according to him. I don't know, that's just normal though. Actually, Inaka life in Japan is pretty cool. Kill it with fire. Well, you're from Australia though, Emily, so come on, toughen up a bit. You can deal with that. They don't have redback. Well, they have had redbacks in Japan, but they've come from Australia, so Americans don't have Smarties. Is that true? Well, so Sean Goss, when you say that you didn't realize Americans don't have Smarties, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that you didn't realize that there are smart people in America? Because that's racist. You are being racist. Or you didn't know about the candy, which is understandable. Honestly, I assume that Smarties were like international. So, who knows? Rainy season as well is about to start, so yes, the bugs will get worse indeed. God mode Chris, good to see you. What up, buddy people? The roof is on fire. Apparently, Saluki-san says that our Smarties are just a different type of candy than the Euro ones. So the Euro ones are different as well. Euro Smarties. That kind of makes sense that they'd have different Smarties. Now I've got into the question stuff. Anzac Day last week. Oh yeah, educating about Anzac Day, which I've done a couple of times. And of course, yeah, as Michael Peckett says, flip the situation. Nonsensical phrases that, are used throughout Japanese pop music and English, which always used to really bug me a lot as well. And I used to think, why don't they just pay one English checker to check lyrics? Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? At the end of the day, I have trouble getting passionate about that kind of stuff. So since I've gotten through, and I do want to go through, I've got about 15 minutes left, and I found some kind of cool topics I wanted to talk about. So yeah, Charlie Brown AU talking about baby metal, which again I've seen a couple, but I haven't really gotten that much into it. Anyway, I am going to. So there are a couple of things which I saw which were cool. This is from a while ago now. I updated my my Flipboard for the first time in a while. The link under the video is to my selected articles, which I'm showing you right now, which I've kind of singled out for the video. Apparently, the running course around the palace is like an exact 5-kilometer course. It's one of the most famous jogging courses in the world, uninterrupted because it goes around a palace. And I used to run around it when I used to live near I used to work in Otemachi. Apparently the other day the emperor came out. He went for a walkabout and was saying, "Hello, joggers," to the joggers, and the joggers were like, "Whoa." It's kind of funny seeing the Tuchan reaction, saying, "Yeah, that would surprise you, bumping into the emperor while you're jogging around the palace." But I see this is, again, coming back to Ahmed's question. This is kind of cool. What's cool about Japan is that you can kind of just be walking around and bump into the emperor and say, "Yeah, what up?" It can happen. That's kind of cool. Yay, Tokyo. Another topic is the really interesting thing I was reading the other day. This was from, where is this from? Let me see what site this is from, but it is about so I'm just going in now. Boom. Mapping ignorance. I think, okay, so this is a site called Mapping Ignorance, and apparently this is talking about the foreign language effect, and how when Nelson Mandela was in prison, he made a point of learning Afrikaans, which is the language of the white Boer, the Dutch African minority in South Africa, which I think is legitimate to call them proper African people. I mean, they're white, but they've lived in Africa for like 500 years. Longer, I mean, a lot of the black people in South Africa are from Nigeria or from other parts of Africa. Whereas these people are genuinely, South African for long enough now. But of course, they have an existence like the other tribes there, and one of the ways that they got power and protected themselves from the other tribes was apartheid. And they were one of them, there were English South Africans, white South Africans as well, but, the Afrikaners were the majority of the whites, and they're associated mostly with the apartheid thing. And so while other anti-apartheid activists apparently saw it as a bit of a betrayal that Nelson Mandela was learning Afrikaans when he was in prison and speaking with his warders and with the people he met in Afrikaans, Nelson Mandela traces himself that he thought that being able to connect in the same language with the people that he was trying to persuade of something was key to getting an advantage in the negotiations to end apartheid. And what was the quote? The quote was, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart." This is something I deal with every day. A foreign person, a Japanese person, in that thing, which language do I speak to them in? And the default language of the company I'm in is Japanese, which means that there's a lot of cases of international people who are much more comfortable in English, obviously, who are giving instructions to Japanese people who decide more or less whether to pretend not to understand what they don't like, or to take or leave or whatever. But they're just kind of sitting there, and it's a bit like Charlie Brown's teacher talking. And it is true that it makes a really big difference, especially for important things, and people know this. They get me in the room and they really want to deliver the message with the most impact, because I'll deliver it, And it's true, it's not just the words, it's the way that you deliver it and the way that you have the conversation as well. That makes it all very different. That's a very good point. It's called the foreign language effect, and I've got the link in my Flipboard, and I thought it was very interesting. A great article from Tofugu on another big topic lately of Japanese black companies. Black companies being a term that's used, braku kigyo. That's used for companies that kind of abuse workers, basically. That have, it's kind of like you think about the Walmart reputation in America of companies that, pay crap and, abuse their workers and treat them like garbage. Well, that's kind of the whole thing about it's become an increasing topic, because there are some companies which stand out through the internet. There's information that gets exchanged by workers talking about the crazy things at that company. Not to mention companies that become associated with not just horrible leadership, but actually working to death. And one of those, there's an izakaya chain called Watami, which had some workers who worked so much overtime that they died. And the president of that company was put on the party list for the LDP, and was, as a result, got into parliament, which alarmed a lot of people, because he never would have been elected directly. He had such a bad reputation for being head of this company, and he was unrepentant for that fact, So, yeah, they've got these Black Kigyo Daisho. They've got these awards for the most, what they call the most evil corporations in Japan. I think it's a good thing that it's come up as a topic, because it really does help to name and shame and pressure these companies to be self-aware and to change and to not want to get on this list, and to take into account the things that... It's one of the ways, I think, the way that it's kind of come up as a grassroots topic that really changes. It allows people to influence from the bottom up, which is kind of rare in Japan, to kind of try to change the way that... and I see that the Watami comes up as a specific topic in the Tofugu article. Really worth reading the Tofugu article. It's a very, very big topic in Japanese society, and I think it's very fundamental for understanding what's going on in Japan. I'm going to read one more topic. I picked a whole bunch today, but I'm going to pick the last one is from Rocket News, and it's just kind of a typical kind of throwaway light thing, but it's, you know, when you've been in Japan too long when, and I thought I'd read this out loud and see if these apply to me. So 10 things that will let you know as a foreigner that you've lived too long in Japan. Leave in the comments if these apply to you or not as well. Let's do a test together. So first one I've got is the very thought of taking a bath without showering, showering first it says, but showering first makes you feel dirty. That is absolutely true. The idea of having a bath in my own filth and washing with soap in a bath seems kind of disgusting to me now. That to me, I could never do that again. And fact is, I mean, I normally would have a shower anyway. I couldn't imagine having a Western style bath ever again. Pretty much. So that's true. 1 for 1 applies to me. Number 2. How does that go for you guys? Do you guys still manage to go home after you've lived in Japan, even once, even if you live in Japan for like 6 months? Can you ever go back to your home country and get in a bath full of soapy, grimy water that your teenage cousin just washed in before you? No, that's just gross. Number 2, up to number 2 now. Sticking with me. Leave in the comments if these apply or what your thoughts are on these, because this applies to most people in the audience, obviously. Second one, you ask for a non-smoking table in a restaurant when you visit your home country. Now this I noticed before, and this kind of got me because I'm sorry, I think that's just normal. I mean, in the Western countries, do they not have like smoking? I guess but the problem is that they don't have smoking areas still. Is that it? Or that there's been like a universal ban. In Japan, it's true that they still often in many restaurants have separated areas, which is kind of pointless because, you know, you could be sitting in the seat here in the non-smoking area, which is right next to this guy here in the smoking area who's smoking. And they're improving. I think Burger King, they have like rooms that have like their own ventilation and stuff like that. But still, if you sit near the door, it still stinks. So I guess that's why I might ask for a non-smoking table. But you know, I don't even think about it, frankly. I don't know if you even realize that there was a difference, but there probably is. 3, you give someone a gift because they gave you a gift. I must admit, I do the thing of omiyage. I don't know about the gift exchanging thing, but I do take omiyage. I take little gifts to give to people when I go overseas. And that's something which I kind of have to do because I'm married to a Japanese. The idea of exchanging gifts, well, I don't know. I mean, you only really get gifts for your birthday or for Christmas in other countries, so I don't really think so much about that. 4, you stockpile emergency gifts. No, I do definitely not stockpile emergency gifts. So I think the person that we're dealing with here is probably very obsessed with gifts, if you ask me. I don't know. Does anyone here stockpile gifts or get obsessed with giving back gifts? That seems... Maybe if you live in the inaka, something like that, if you live in the countryside and you really are obsessed with that, but I don't know. Doesn't work with me. Number 5, going into number 5, keeping up. I'm seeing some results here. I'm seeing some people, kind of surprising actually. One I would have thought was universal, but nope. Emily Louise Maitland, you still would wash in a filthy, disgusting Australian bath. Really? That's kind of shocking to me. I couldn't do that. Oh, besides which, I have to save water. It's 5. You bow while talking on the phone. Oh, sorry, the soccer team's struggling. You bow while talking on the phone. Yep. I mean, I wouldn't say I quite do the anymore, but I probably do Japanese body language while I speak Japanese on a phone. That probably happens. Not dramatically, but I'd say that it happens. So 5, I would say, yeah, it happens. Not like the picture, but it happens. Number 6. How are we doing, people? Number 6. You wave your hand in front of your face to indicate no. I like the chop and the hand thing. Like, no, in my experience, doesn't mean no so much. It means don't worry about it. Don't worry. And the hand chop, like it says sit down. These hand gestures that Japanese has are the most awesome hand gestures in the entire human species communication rank. So I definitely do those because they are superior to what we have in English, and we need to use them in English as well. So I definitely, number 6, definite, big yes on number 6. How are we doing? Number 7, you pronounce Japanese words correctly even when speaking in English. For example, I don't say karaoke. Well, No, because I'm not retarded. But I kind of get the point. Well, and I must admit, I defend. I know Americans used to do the opposite of that as well. They would actually force Japanese to try to do American pronunciation of katakana words, which I used to get really irritated by. But I guess I do the reverse. I do that. I don't correct people, but myself, I probably use the correct pronunciation. But it's like someone's name. I mean, so I lived in a Polynesian country. I grew up in New Zealand, which has many Maori people. And, we have as English speakers, we have a proud history and culture of traveling the world and butchering other people's names and place names and languages and cultures. And true in my own country as well, that, and you almost get, we'd have these kind of anglicized pronunciations of all of these Maori place names in New Zealand. And I learned Maori as a school subject in primary school, and we were corrected. And it's kind of funny. I remember getting called out for pronouncing place names correctly in New Zealand. For example, I used to live in a town called Waiouru, which is a big crappy army camp which no one likes. But correct pronunciation is Waiouru. And I remember I pronounced Waiouru correctly once, like using the Maori pronunciation, which, by the way, is exactly the same as Japanese pronunciation. I remember getting hassled and the teacher kind of standing up and saying, no, that's how everyone should pronounce it. You're all wrong, which was kind of cool. But there again, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hypocritical, I guess, that I don't care about correcting imported English words into Japanese. But yeah, if you know the correct pronunciation, why would you Forrest Gump it by pronouncing it wrong? Like you don't know. Bothers me. Anyway, number 8. Unconsciously throw up peace signs on photos. Well, yeah. Yes, of course I throw up peace signs. Big yes to number 8. Number 9, I have an impressive collection of umbrellas in my home. You betcha. I got lots of umbrellas because people steal them here. They don't steal anything. You could leave a wallet, you could leave cash, a bundle of cash with a rubber band around it, $1,000 on your seat, on a bus, and it will get handed into the bus driver, and probably they'd find you and return it to you. But you leave an umbrella in the middle of a typhoon outside of a convenience store, and you go inside and you come out and it's gone. I was thinking, like, that part of the breakdown in morality in Japanese society really bothers me. But you need them, basically. So, and it doesn't matter if you've got lots of umbrellas because you only take one out with you, but people take it with you when you need it. They take it from you when you need it. So, number 10, people wearing shoes indoors grosses me out. Yes, it does. It does. Honestly, you don't know what people have been standing in. 6 definitely. 10 definitely. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I've been drinking alcohol and I'm sunburned. 10, people wearing shoes indoors does gross me out because I immediately see the shoes and I think that they've all stood in dog shit and they are spreading that dog shit all through the house. No, that's like radioactive stuff. Not cool. Oh dear. Thank you, Ryan Platts, for the warning. I guess that's also my cue. Coming up on an hour, so that's my cue to sign off soon. Yeah. Guess it could have happened. I'm going to keep plugging away at trying to get my video capture card to work this week, so this whole thing will look a bit better next week. But kind of interesting looking at the feedback for this as well. I'm going to keep looking at this. Go and check out my Flipboard and subscribe to all my other Flipboard magazines or any of the ones that you like because they are good. And I hope you're going to have a good week. We are going to have 2.5 Oyajis live this Wednesday. Not sure who's going to be on it yet, but it's going to be awesome as usual. And I am going to check out, but I'm going to go and listen to that Avril Lang song one more time because, I don't know, I just like being punished. I like it because it's racist. No, it's not racist. I don't some people, honestly. So I hope it was as good for you as it was for me. It was good fun talking to you all. I'm sorry it's a bit low-key tonight, but I'm a bit tired. But we will get back to it next week. Same time every week, 11 p.m. on Sundays and 10:30 p.m. this Wednesday. This time on Victor's channel, I believe, will be the next one, where I will try to coach him how to get the comments on the side of the video where their natural place is. And yeah, it's kind of cool watching the comments on baths and stuff like that. Definitely, the baths just seem kind of dirty to me now. So, good night to you all, and cool hanging out, and see you all again next week. Boom, peace. Logged me out. Gotta sign in again. Boom. Going on now. See ya.